Hello Math 130 students, we will be picking up on page 9, section 2.3. A linear equation can be written in the form that is standard form ax plus by is equal to c, given that a and b are not fractions. That's what it means for it to be in standard form. A linear equation can be written in slope-intercept form if its y is equal to mx plus b. So usually this is going to be what we prefer, to write it in slope-intercept form. So let's find the equation of the line below. So remember that b value is the y-intercept. That's your z comma b, and that your m is really your slope, which is your rise over your run. So let's think and see if we can figure out the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is here. So my y-intercept is 0, 0. So that tells us that the b value is equal to 0. Now I have to figure out the slope. Well, here I have one ordered pair and another. So I went up 2, so my rise over my run is I went up 2, and here I went over 1, 2, 3. So I went to the right 3. So that would be a positive 2 over 3. So now I know that my slope is a positive 2 over 3. So my equation is y is equal to that slope value, 2/3, x plus my y-intercept was 0. So really, you can rewrite this as y is equal to 2/3 x. Or if you prefer that plus 0, that's fine too. So now let's try this again for part B. So I'm looking at this and I want to see my y-intercept. So here, that gives me my y-intercept. So that tells me that my b value is equal to a positive 1. Perfect. Now I want to figure out what my slope is going to be. So let's see, maybe we are going to look at this point over here. So it looks like my rise over my run. It looks like I'm running, right? 1, 2, 3. So I went to the right 3, and I went down 1, 2, 3. Well, since I went down and to the right, that's a negative 3 over 3, which ends up becoming a negative 1. So my slope here is a negative 1. So it means I have a negative slope. So I'm going to rewrite this as y is equal to my negative slope, negative 1, x, and plus your b value, which was 1. So y is equal to negative 1x plus 1. Or you could write it as y is equal to a negative x plus 1. These both mean the same thing. So you may or may not want to put that coefficient of 1 in front of the x. And that's really up to the student on what they prefer. Okay, so next example. It says use the slope-intercept form to find an equation of a line whose slope is negative 2 and passing through this point. So whenever it says that you're using the slope-intercept form, then you're using the y is equal to mx plus b. So this is cool. It's telling me what m is equal to. So I have y is equal to negative 2x plus b. But now this ordered pair that they're giving you, which is negative 8 and a positive 18, well, this is saying that x is equal to negative 8 and that y is equal to a positive 18. So those are the values you're going to be plugging into this equation. So the y value is a positive 18. I have a negative 2. And that x value that I'm plugging in is a negative 8 plus b. So when I solve, negative 2 times a negative 8 is going to be a positive 16 plus b. So I'm going to subtract 16 for both sides. So 18 minus 16 is going to give you a positive 2 is equal to b. So my equation here is going to be y is equal to mx plus b, where y is equal to the slope that I found, which was a -2, x, and my plus my b value, which was 2. So that's going to be my final answer. So we're going to do the exact same thing for the next example. So now we have a different slope, which is fine. So my slope here is m is equal to -1. And here I have the ordered pair such that x is equal to 7 and my y is equal to a positive 5. So I have y is equal to mx plus b. So I know that my slope value that I'm plugging in is 1. And then when I plug in my x and y value, well, that y is 5. And that x value is 7. So I'm going to have 5 is equal to 7 plus b. Subtract 7 from both sides. So that 5 minus 7 is a -2 is equal to the b. So I have y is equal to mx plus b. So remember that m value that I got was 1. It was given to me. And that b value that I just figured out was a -2. So that is going to be my final answer. And of course, remember the formula for slope. It's the difference of y's divided by the difference of x's. So now my equation changes a little bit because the directions are slightly different. Now this is saying write an equation of a line that passes through these 2 points. So it doesn't give me slope. I need to figure out slope. So that's one additional step that I need to do. Well, I know how to figure out slope. Slope is going to be given by this equation. So I'm going to have to label this as x1, y1, and x2, y2. So calculate slope. That's going to be my part 1. So then I'm going to have m is equal to, and I know that I have subtraction in between. So my y2 is 0, my y1 is 2. My x2 is 4, my x1 is a -4. So when I plug the fraction into my calculator, I'm going to have -2 on top, and I'm going to have 4 minus -4 on the bottom, and so I'm going to get that m is equal to, once I reduce the fraction, a -1/4. Perfect, I got my slope. Now, don't forget, you specifically want to write this in slope-intercept form. So I specifically have to write it in y is equal to mx plus b. So the next thing I need to find is my b value. So find b value. So far I have that y is equal to my slope, -1/4 x plus b. So now from here, I need to figure out an x and y value. It doesn't matter, just choose one. So let's say I choose this ordered pair. So the ordered pair that I'm choosing here is going to be 4, 0. So x is equal to 4 and my y is equal to 0. So now my y value is 0, and I have it equals to a -1/4. My x value that I'm plugging in is 4, and I have a plus b. So I have 0 is equal to, and if I have a fraction, let's say -1/4 times 4, remember the 4's cancel, so you're left with a -1 plus b. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides, so that 1 is equal to b. So now I can rewrite this equation. Remember, it's y is equal to mx plus b, and I have my m and I have my b, so y is equal to my -1/4 x plus 1. Okay. Now it says write an equation of line passing through these points. So it's the exact same thing. So it's like, okay, so first I need to calculate slope. So find slope. And remember that slope is going to be that y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. So I'm going to call this x1, y1, x2, y2. So then my slope value, and don't forget I have subtraction, so y2 is a negative 4, y1 is a negative 7. x2 is a positive 1, and x1 is a positive 2. So on my fraction, I have a negative 4 minus a negative 7, and a 1 minus 2. So when I reduce my fraction, I'm going to get a negative 3. So I get that m is equal to a negative 3. Now, the next thing I need to do is find my b value. Now I'm going to do that by plugging in some value for b, for x and y, to find b. So I have y is equal to, and don't forget your slope, you just found it as a negative 3. So to figure out b, let's pick a point. I don't know, let's just try 2 and negative 7. So that x is equal to 2 and y is equal to a negative 7. So the y value is negative 7 is equal to my negative 3. The x value is a positive 2 plus b. So I have negative 7 is equal to a negative 6 plus b. So I'm going to add 6 to both sides, so that negative 7 plus 6 is a negative 1 is equal to b. So for my final answer, y is equal to mx plus b, I would have that y is equal to a negative 3 x minus 1. And so that's going to be my final answer. Now, the next thing I want to talk about are parallel and perpendicular lines. So the parallel lines, as you can see from the top example, so this one is parallel, they never intersect. And also, we know that they have the exact same slope. Versus if they're perpendicular, then they cross at a 90-degree angle. That is what that little square represents right here. So that little square represents that it's at a 90-degree angle that these two lines intersect at. Not only that, but it tells me that there's going to be two criteria here. So the rules, in order for it to be perpendicular, is that it relates to the slope, is that it has to be the reciprocal, and rule number 2, it has to have the opposite sign. So opposite signs be positive and negative, right? Okay, so let's think about this. So for this example, it says find an equation of a line containing this point and is parallel to this line. So I'm going to go ahead and split my work. So I know that part 1 is to find slope, and I know that part 2 is to find my b value, okay, just like we were doing before. So for part 1, finding my slope, I have my original equation, y is equal to a negative 4x plus 3. But it specifically said that I had the word parallel. So if I have parallel, then that means that I absolutely need the exact same slope. Well, my m, or better yet, my slope from my original equation is the number in front of x. So that's going to be a negative 4. So m is equal to a negative 4. Now, if I want the slope to be parallel, which is going to be my new equation, well, my slope will have to be parallel. So parallel means it's going to be exactly the same. So it's going to be the exact same slope, okay? So that's my new slope. It's the same slope as before. Now for part B, I need to find my new y-intercept. So I have that y is equal to my slope value, negative 4, x plus b. So now this is where I'm going to use this point. So I have the point 3, negative 3. So here, x is equal to 3, and my y is equal to a negative 3. So I'm going to plug these values in. So my y is a negative 3 is equal to my negative 4 times my x value, which is a positive 3, plus b. So then negative 3 is equal to a negative 12 plus b. Let's add 12 to both sides. So that negative 3 plus 12 is going to give you a positive 9 equal to b. So now your final answer is going to incorporate your new slope and your new y-intercept. So that y is equal to a negative 4 x plus 9. So that ends up becoming my final answer. So we have one more that's going to be parallel, just to make sure that we get it, because sometimes two examples are better than one. So remember, my part 1 is all about finding your slope, and part 2 is going to be all about finding your b value. So here, my original equation, I have 5x minus 4y is equal to a negative 3. I need to get that y by itself so I can figure out what my slope is going to be. So I have to subtract 5x from both sides. So now I have negative 4y is equal to a negative 5x minus 3. Now, divide by negative 4 on each individual part. That y is equal to now a negative divided by negative is a positive. So positive 5/4 and a positive 3/4. So now I can say my original m is going to be 5/4. So my parallel m is going to be 5/4 because it's going to be exactly the same. That's what it means for it to be parallel. Now, to find my new b value, I have that y is equal to a 5/4 x plus b. So now, this is where I'm going to use that ordered pair 5, 3. So x is equal to 5 and y is equal to 3. So the y value is 3, and it's equal to my 5/4, and the x value is 5 plus b. So I'm going to have 3 is equal to 25/4 plus b. From here, I'm going to subtract 25 divided by 4 on both sides. So on your calculator, 3 minus your fraction of a 25/4, and that's going to give me a negative 13/4. So then your final answer is going to be that y is equal to your 5/4 x minus 13/4. Now, what's different about this example is this key word is going to be perpendicular. So now you have to think about this just a little bit more. So we're still going to have the same format. So we know that part A is going to be finding slope. And part B is going to be finding b value. So let's see what we start off with. So we have y is equal to a negative 4x plus 4. So then I can say that my original m is equal to a negative 4. And better yet, we can say it's equal to a negative 4 over 1. So now when I want the perpendicular m, well, it has to be the opposite sign. So if it was negative, now it's positive. And when I do the reciprocal, it would be a 1 4. So remember, the two criteria is opposite sign, and it needs to be the reciprocal. Both of these need to happen in order for these to be perpendicular, okay? So now that I have that, then I know that y is equal to my, and remember, 1/4 x plus b. So I'm going to use that point, 5, -1. So x is equal to 5 and y is equal to a -1. So the y value is a -1. It's equal to a 1/4. My x value is a +5 plus b. So -1 is equal to a 5/4 plus b. So I'm going to subtract 5/4 on both sides. So I'm going to have -1 minus my fraction 5/4. Now I'm going to get a -9/4. So now my final answer, I will have that y is equal to a +1/4 x, and I have now a minus a 9/4 for my b. The next example, I still have perpendicular, and it's not handed to you. So we're still going to have that same format where I'm going to split it into two parts. So my part A is all about finding the slope, and part B will be all about finding my b value. So my original equation, I have 5x minus 4y is equal to a -3. So I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides. So that -4y is equal to a -5x minus 3. Divide everything by a -4. So I can have that y is equal to a +5/4 x plus a 3/4. So I can see that my original m is equal to a 5/4. So if I want my slope to be perpendicular, because that's the key word here, it's now perpendicular, then I'm going to say that m, and remember the two criteria, it has to be opposite, so it's negative, and it has to be the reciprocal, so 4/5. So now I'm going to have my y is equal to a -4/5 x plus b. To find my b, I'm going to use that ordered pair. So 5, 3. So x is equal to 5 and my y is equal to 3. So y is a 3 and I have my -4/5 and my x value is a 5 and I have my plus b. So 3 is equal to, what's nice about this is that the 5's cancel. So you have a -4 plus b. So now I'm going to add 4 to both sides. So I get that 7 is equal to b. So now my final answer, I'm going to have that y is equal to my -4/5 x plus 7 as my final answer. Okay. So if you guys have any questions, any concerns, please feel free to email me, contact the Math Success Center or the tutor. A lot of resources for my students. Please feel free to use one of the many resources available to you.